Well, hello there. Welcome to the third part of this masterclass bundle, Goal Health, Decoding Your Illness and Symptoms to Live a Life in Purpose. I'm Susana Cresce, and I am so excited to present to you this part of the bundle because this is one of my absolute favorite tools and subjects when it comes to talking about life coaching, business coaching, and everything manifesting. I know it's not necessarily related according to what we have been taught in life, but honestly, our body is telling us so much more that we pay attention to. And unfortunately, Western medicine has taught us to treat illnesses and symptoms strictly with drugs and assuming that it just happens without fully paying attention to what our body and our family history is trying to tell us. And this is why I've spent quite some time studying this new studies, I would say, because definitely help us out to understand much more of what's going on in the back of our heads and in our family history. And that's what we're going to dive in today. It's a very in-depth subject. We're going to cover at least the basics to see the possibilities. And again, as I say, we'll do an interesting trip to discover the invisible strings that attach us to the past and we are experiencing through our day-to-day, our symptoms, and repeated experiences. And before we dive in, again, I am Susana Cresce. I am a manifesting coach for women entrepreneurs. I'm a Latina obsessed with inspiring entrepreneurs to reach their peak potential and discover their true purpose. And of course, a planner addict. When I say that I inspire women to entrepreneur, that's actually something that is really close to my heart. But in general, I love inspiring women to reach their peak potential. And subjects like this one, when we go deeper on what our body's trying to tell us, definitely help us get there. And as I always say, please, your ego will try to block you, especially when it comes to new information, so that it doesn't feel threatened, so it doesn't feel like you're changing the way things are happening in the back of your brain. So pay attention to that. Close any distractions around you and give yourself the chance to explore new possibilities. Who knows if this is the answer you've been craving for when it comes to repeated events in your life that don't really make sense, but maybe your body, your mind, your family is trying to tell you something. My goal for you today is to recognize the story you have been carrying. We all carry stories. We all carry stories for ourselves, for our family. A lot of times we have been chosen in the invisible realm for us to bring afloat an information about our family that has been kept as a secret and that has brought a lot of pain and nobody has really paid attention. So maybe that is part of the story that you have been carrying. And overall, to reconnect with yourself in a positive way and feel empowered, leaving behind the things that no longer serve you, and to welcome more health and abundance into your life. And before we dive in, I do have a few questions for you as usual. So do you have any symptoms that you feel have no real reason to be? Maybe you've been to the doctor and it's kind of like, oh yeah, you have a headache, but okay, take a pill or something like that. Or nothing really major has happened and you just wonder why. Have you been experiencing repeated situations throughout your life? They're not necessarily huge, but you just happen to constantly either lose the love, the job, get knee pains or hands pain, or something that constantly happens every so often and there's no real reason for that? Have you wondered if there's an answer beyond the logic or Western medicine or what our society tells us? Are you worried about your future generations getting something from you? Perhaps you are afraid of even having kids because you're, again, afraid of passing on things that have been bothering your life. Or have you been diagnosed with an illness that actually repeats in your family? And usually they just say it's just, the DNA, whatever, the norm. Has it happened to you? Well, you're in the right place. Now, imagine if tomorrow you wake up and none of the traditional medicine is available, nothing to cure you the way that we're used to, no pills and medicine. Would you search for a different answer? Well, I would hope so. This is why I absolutely love these subjects. Now, there are 3 basic reasons why we repeat patterns, illnesses, symptoms, or things in our life. Number one, we want to belong. It's our human nature to want to belong, to be part of a group. And we also honor the previous generations, even if we consciously say, I hate my mom, I hate my grandma, I don't belong to this family, I was just, born here, I have nothing to do with these people. Believe me, we always honor the previous generations. And there's always a balance between give and take. And our lizard brain, our subconscious really doesn't know what good it is, the giving and taking. We just need that balance. And a lot of the times it just comes out in a way that really doesn't serve us, but that brings that balance. And we're going to go deeper into all of these things. Now, there are 3 archives in the brain. So to find the origin of any problem that we have been experiencing, we need to analyze 3 pivotal moments or brain archives that allow us to reach the root of the program we have been carrying. And to get to that, again, I'm going to go back here and say the part about belonging, because I feel like I need to put a little bit more emphasis on this. When I say that we want to belong and that we want to be part of the family, I want you to pay attention to this a lot, because we are constantly either repairing or opposing what we saw in our family. And we think that, for example, taking again the example of people that don't have a good relationship with their mothers or fathers, like, I'm nothing like my mother. A lot of times when you say that, and the more you say that, the more you actually are like it. We want to belong, and we do it by either being the same or completely opposing it. But the thing about opposing something is you think you're fixing it, but no, it's still part of the same situation, just one extreme or the other. We need to get to neutral. We need to heal it and realize in the ways that we are trying to belong and honor our generations. Again, now let's go to the 3 brain archives, or the pivotal moments that we can find how our brain has been programmed, and how our brain again reacts to those programs in the forms of repeated events, manifesting the things that you don't necessarily rationally want, or of course illnesses and symptoms. Number 1, there's the chronological age. That's the logical side, the age that we have. The thing is, if we go back in our history, we could be honoring a lot of our family when it comes to a specific age. And it's really interesting to see what has happened to our mom, to our dad, to our grandmother at that specific age, that something very impressive has happened to you. There's always also the gestational meaning project. What that means is, when all of us were conceived, from the few months before conception to about year 3, there's a very big group of highly recognized psychologists that realize that we all carry a project. Our life has a meaning, and it could mean the child that is substituting another child that didn't come to life. It could be the one that is bringing the protection to mom when she felt lonely. It could be the person that is meant to be curing something in the future. There's a lot of things that we can analyze around the gestational project and what meaning our life has when it comes to our family. And by this doesn't mean that you are destined for that future, that's just your destiny and there's nothing you can do. Au contraire, what we're trying to do is bring to light, this might be what you were built around, and you now have a chance to heal that, because all of this is about fixing. So if you are the substitution child, for example, when you bring that to life, number 1, you let that child that you are technically substituting have its own space, honor its space. And then you can have your own life with the free will that you and I and everyone in this world has. And then the transgenerational. This is sounds very complicated, but at the end of the day, we're all part of a big family, and we're always trying to heal and honor our family. So when there are hidden or silenced pains that somebody in our family suffer, the bigger the impact for that person. And the more silence, the more unacknowledged it goes, the more it can go generation after generation. And this is based on studies of clinical psychologists like Mark Fretched or Ann Schutzenberger. You can read their studies and their stories, and are incredibly impressive. For example, with Ann Schutzenberger, it all started with her child realizing that the same position of children, since her grandmother died, the second child always died, the second child always died, and specific ages. And when she started realizing that and studying the situation with her own patients, she saw a very big connection. And that's what we call the transgenerational, where our family tree screams louder and louder until somebody acknowledges the pain that somebody went through. And unfortunately, especially when it comes to miscarriages or abortions or deaths around the family in general, even if it's people that don't necessarily honor our family, like, oh, there's the black sheep, the one that, went to jail and maybe got killed or killed someone. So nobody wants to talk about it because that person does not relate to our family. Our family is pure except for that. So we're just going to hide that. And I'm going to a very big, extremist example, but it happens. It happens a lot. So a lot of family feel that they're healing that situation by never talking about it, and the opposite happens. Somebody in the future generations come with similar actions or complete opposition actions, being the victim, the one that never follow through with the things they're gonna do, the one that never makes the money, the one that never marries, the one that never fully lives their life, because they are relating to the victims that nobody spoke or honored. So there's a lot of connections that we can definitely analyze and start seeing the reasons why, number one, we get ill or we don't advance in life, or it doesn't matter how hard we work, we don't get the money that we deserve, or things like that. So those are the three pivotal moments that we definitely analyze when it comes to this type of work. There's engrams. So as I was saying before, our brain gets programmed. And this is pretty much engrams that are the memories that are stored in the back of our brain. And it physically change our body in response to external stimuli. And this is why this line of study talks about allergies as not really being allergies, but responses to external stimuli that was around when we had an emotional shock. And when I talk about emotional shock, what shocked you could mean a pleasure to me. If somebody or nothing, or it could mean simply nothing to me. There's people that because they got an A-, they get completely shocked, and that really brings frustrations in their life because they were brought out to a place that they were only expecting the A+, and nothing but perfection means a major shock. And for other people, an F, not even an F, a D is amazing. As long as they pass, it's perfectly fine. So that's another thing that we need to pay attention when we talk to other people, because even if somebody shows emotion and frustration around something that to you feels silly and simple, you always have to understand that what shocks you doesn't shock me, and vice versa. And that's also one of the reasons why a lot of people shut down. And by shutting down, you're just accumulating a lot of emotional shocks, and it comes out in the form of illnesses because people are embarrassed to admit that something that seems so simple really affects them. And that's why we really need to be open and seeing from somebody else's eyes and being more empathic when it comes to what shocks somebody else. And the way that this comes out is events repeat, situation repeats, symptoms that lead to illnesses, all of those things. And we are constantly looking for answers outside. We think that it's just bad luck. Oh, my car always breaks down. The wheels are always being without air. I lost my keys. It's just bad luck. It's just so funny. There's people that constantly live in a quote unquote funny situation. And it just seems like bad luck or something like that, but perhaps we're not looking a little bit deeper to know what we're truly manifesting, meaning what is truly in the back of our minds. And all of that can find answers in this type of studies instead of necessarily outside, which is what we are technically trained to do, either bad luck, bad genes, or it just happens. Again, the symptoms have a goal. The main purpose of symptoms is to bring out light to things that we don't accept in us or others, forcing us to change our negative beliefs and overcome the situation. Now, if we neglect the symptom, it will speak louder and louder and louder, becoming an illness and then even passing on generation after generation. Symptoms just try to really tell us what is in the back of our mind, what we are truly feeling, because rationally we say we want more money, we want the love, we want the kid, we want the house, we want the travel. All of the rational good things we want, but what we don't know is really what's in the back of our mind. If we have been ingrained with information that traveling is dangerous, perhaps because our mother, maybe when she was pregnant of us, got mocked when traveling, and all of that get to our cells. Although rationally we always want to travel, either it never happens because every time you're about to plan a trip, something around messes with it, or you actually have bad experiences traveling and you don't even know why. So symptoms, and by symptoms I mean either repetitions, events that repeat, or actual symptoms, all of them have a goal. So now let's explore, what is your body trying to tell you? Now, this training was around health in general, but I really focus all of it in events in general that can repeat in your life. But let's talk about your body. There are plenty of symptoms. And I'm going to go more direct with all of them, but there's plenty of symptoms that can have an answer. And beyond the psychologists that I mentioned before, Louise Hay has also made a beautiful study when it comes to analyzing what your body's telling you beyond what the Western medicine tells you it is. And I invite you to also analyze this if this is something that you have been experiencing. But for now, let's just explore some of the possibilities to see if you start finding some answers. When it comes to allergies, which is one of the things that I was saying at the beginning, when you had an experience that surpassed your pain threshold, whatever element was around was associated by your brain as the cause. So the biologic sense of allergies is to alert you and save you from danger. Meaning, when your body re-experiences whatever element was around the shocking moment, most likely will bring you allergy as a way of taking you out of there. And that's one of the reasons why there's so many allergies when it comes to spring and pollen and stuff like that, because they are so active in spring that most likely any shock that you had, you were around that element. But that also, which could be very general. So a lot of people say, oh, that doesn't make sense. But this also tells you why there's people that have very, very strange allergies, like allergy to water, which I met somebody which happened to had an experience, well, her mother, when she was pregnant, her mother actually almost drowned, sorry for my English, when she was pregnant from her. She never knew this, but she knew that pretty much she had an allergy to water. Of course, our first response is always survival, so you can drink water up to a point, but she was extremely afraid. She would drink very minimal amount of water and usually gags around water. Most of her liquids were other types of liquids. So doing this type of analysis, it came to the conclusion that when mother was pregnant with her, she almost drown. And of course, the engram that got to her is that water means danger. So this type of explanation tells you why people have some very particular allergies. And usually when we go back to the programming event, we can search that there was this element either being eaten or consumed or around, and your body's simply trying to protect you from it. Also, when it comes to anemia, it's about devaluation. You feel devaluated in regards to which is your motive to leaving. Pretty much says that I don't have any more energy to leave or to live the life that I am experiencing. There's lack of happiness for this life. The stomach acid, usually behind an excessive production of stomach acid, there's a hidden fear. There's a tension in wanting to control the material world. So any recent event could be family related. Probably the situation seems unjust and we just get irritated as if we wanted through this acid to destroy everything that we cannot take. When it comes to alopecia, in general, the hair represents the image that I have about myself and the capability that I have, that I think that I have. So any problems around hair means that I cannot be myself. Usually there's three emotional conflicts that are being left. Separation, devaluing yourself, and you are feeling unprotected. So what your lizard brain again does is giving you a reason to justify those feelings. If you're feeling unprotected, devalued, separated, probably from family, and all of those are connected, it would feel a little bit irrational to just have those fears for no reason. So your body gives you that lack of protection when it comes to the hair. So it justifies that behavior. When it comes to joints, again, it's also devaluing yourself. It's pretty much saying like your bones, I am nothing. It has to do with the sense that you give to life. It's pretty much feeling that you are not wanting, that you are being kind of pulled down, that you have to do things that you don't want to do, and that you are not being appreciated in that sense. The lumbar problem, it's an expression of rage, sadness, and it could also mean a problem when it comes to sexuality. When it comes to epilepsy, it's usually for people that have not been wanted or doesn't feel loved, or that have been raised by overprotective mothers. They have a lot of internal conflicts, and they are kind of like pushing down those feelings, and they're not willing to say what they're really thinking. It's kind of like they prefer to bite their tongue. So it's a way of demanding attention when you cannot speak necessarily for yourself. Teeth, bad teeth is usually a sign of retained aggression and very low vitality. Whoever has those conflicts lacks the capability of kind of biting the problem. It's a difficulty to walk further, to go to the forward, and take the decisions that they want to make. And so pretty much they're avoiding any obstacles. They're avoiding biting the problem and just expressing themselves. So they have a lot of contained aggression. Diabetes is a very interesting one because usually sugar means sweetness, right? So sugar is, a gift, is love, is kindness, a maternal connection, all of that, right? So the excessive presence of sugar in the blood usually means a difficulty, either when we were gestated, when we were made, or simply because we're living a life without sweetness, without love, without that connection. So when you're hurting so bad, when you're with so much sadness, your lizard brain tries to give you the sweetness that you need. And the thing is, the lizard brain has no rationality. That is the point. That is the caveman. It's kind of like you seem like you need a gift. Here's some sugar to lighten up your day, because it has that relationship. Unfortunately, it's not the helpful one, and neither any of these symptoms. But at the same time, when we learn to listen to our bodies, it's a beautiful gift, because we can really realize and start paying attention to what is happening in the back of our mind. the elbows are usually related to work. Your hands, your arms are the symbol of working, of professional activity. So probably you're feeling devalued when it comes to your job. As scoliosis, it's that tension in the vertebrae. It's also it's kind of like a desviation. It's like you don't. There's no consistency between masculine and feminine. It's probably you are fighting between mom and dad, don't know which side to go. Probably you are maybe the child that is between both of the parents when they're in the process of divorce or in a lot of problem. You don't know with which one to kind of connect when there's that division. So it's kind of like I can only rely on one of my parents. So one is pushing me one way, the other one is pushing me to the other. It can also mean to any siblings or any person that is close to you that is kind of like bugging you so much that you need to go to the other side. You can find that balance. Stomach problems in general, we talked about acid specifically. Up there. So acid, again, when you want to destroy something, you can really digest any family, job problems around you. But when it comes to the stomach is very linked to love, to affection, to surviving, and also to being compensated. Usually when we cried or when we were fed, or when we earn something, we go out for dinner, we celebrate with dinner. So there's a lot of good connections when it comes to the stomach. So when you have a problem with your stomach in general, it has to do with the everyday life, with the bread of every day, with material aspects in life. We are saddened, we are worried, we feel insecure because we don't have control over our material world. We are probably preoccupied when it comes to the financial situation, the professional situation, or school, law, anything like that creates a lot of anxiety. Constipation. I want to retain. I don't want to forgive. I want to save it for me. I don't know how to solve this problem. So I just retain. So you're retaining garbage. You're retaining that which you cannot or do not want to solve. And that's usually why we say we don't want to forgive. It's the constipation is usually related with one of a personality that's very stubborn, I would say, and somebody that just wants to hold on to a situation even though they know that it doesn't fully serve them, but probably the other side of the coin sounds too complicated to figure it out. It also has to do, a lot has to do with the maternal connection, especially those first 3 years of our life. We fully relate a lot to our mother. So whatever our relationship with our mother in the rest of our life really comes out when it comes to illnesses. And here's some other symptoms. We're going to take just a few more. This is just to give you an example of the things that we can be exploring and how we can start learning to listen to our body. Fibromyalgia, it's a very interesting one because it's people that love being close to their family, that love their family, that would do anything for the family, but at the same time feel like the family is a blockage for realizing their dreams. So you are again between this two opposite situation when it comes to the love of your family. Infertility. When somebody has a problem without any organic real reason when it comes to having a child, this is something that is worth having a very big analysis, because we need to realize if it's a very strong reaction, subconscious reactions to the image that they have of their own mother, or the difficulties that they had with their mother, maybe the lack of love or warmth when it comes to maternal love. It could also mean transgenerational programs. Usually the transgenerational programs, the studies say that goes one generation every other generation. So perhaps analyzing the situation that your grandmother went through when it came to having children. There's usually stories about getting pregnant and then you don't feel the love. Maybe somebody was left alone after getting pregnant, or they got sick, or maybe the husband cheated after a few months in pregnancy. There's a lot of situations that can happen around it. So infertility is worth analyzing very deep. What does having children means for the feminine lineage in your family? And again, there's all other things. Shoulders and hands and knees usually have something to do with work. Are you being kneeled down to do the things that you don't want to do? Do you feel that you're not capable of doing that? Especially knees. Are you afraid of moving forward? What thing that pushed you forward or towards a step that you didn't fully want to make happen right before you started having knee problems? The flu, there's a lot of times that it just is similar to the acid in your stomach. It's kind of like when we receive a very cold chunk of information and we just make something to protect ourselves, to feel alienated, to kind of like regain our own space and push out with the phlegm and all of that, the things that don't serve us. And there's plenty more that can be telling us exactly what's happening in the back of our mind that is really stopping us from the next step, or simply knowing, is the next step more scary than I thought? There's plenty of people that get symptoms and illnesses right before getting married or moving to another country or changing jobs or about to make a very strong financial decision, starting a family, and rationally you think you want all those things, but perhaps your body's telling you what you're really thinking in the back of your head. And that doesn't mean that is a bad thing for you. It just means that in your body, it has been ingrained that those things mean danger. When you bring those symptoms to a rational sense and realize what your body's trying to tell you, you can definitely change the balance and still make those decisions now from a conscious standpoint, and knowing that you can make it and that your lizard brain doesn't need to protect you from the next step, because now it's a safe thing, because perhaps those were stories that were lived by your grandparents, your parents, somebody in your line before you, and that does not belong to you. And simply by acknowledging, hey, I am so sorry that you went through that, and you don't even have to talk to that person. Perhaps that person's not even alive, but the stories are still in your DNA, in your family. And by acknowledging what they went through and honoring them in a rational way, then you can move forward in whatever aspect of your life you want to move, now conscious and now free of anything that does not belong to you, yet honoring and loving your family, because of them, you are who you are. Now ask yourself, what is your body trying to tell you? Again, analyze your health story, what happened weeks or months before. Thank your body for protecting you in its own way, and rewrite your story. If you want to take this further, and if you want to analyze your own story, because sometimes it's hard to see the answers on your own, and you need professional guidance and somebody to speak to, for sure, let's schedule a discovery call at susanacresce.com/meet, and we can analyze what your body is trying to tell you and how to take your financial situation when it comes to manifesting the life that you truly want and design. We can definitely talk about it and see the possibilities of working together in designing the life that you truly, truly love. It's been an honor being with you. I am Susana Cresce, and I would love to connect with you further. If you want to be part of an amazing group of entrepreneurs that are analyzing this type of events and fully getting empowered knowing our story, join the Magnetic Entrepreneurs Facebook group, and I'll see you there.